This is by far the most popular question that we get. How do property management fees and pricing, how does it work? How does it all work? Okay, so let's start with things that typically cost money. First of all, finding a tenant. Um, Normally that fee is going to range from about half to a full month's rent. So let's say your property rents for $1,000 a month, you're going to pay somewhere between $500 to $1,000 typically. And usually you're not going to pay that until the tenant's actually been found, so that money can come out of the actual rent you get from the tenant. That'd be a normal range. The second is the fee to manage your property monthly. That's handling the collection of the rent and dealing with all the calls, any maintenance issue oversight, all the nuts and bolts that come up every month. That's going to be typically somewhere between 6 to 10%. Some of that will vary based on the location you're in, but it will also vary on the rents that your property gets. So typically, the lower the rent, the higher the fee is going to be. So some companies even have a minimum fee that they charge. So it wouldn't be unusual for a property that, say, rented for $1,000 a month to have a 10% charge or a $95 minimum or something like that. Whereas if your property rented for $2,500 a month, maybe they only charge you 6 or 7% or something like that. So that would not be crazy. It varies by company, but there's a range that happens there. The third thing is the cost to release. So let's say you've had a tenant in your property for 11 months, they want to stay and they want to sign a new year-long lease. Typically, that's going to be somewhere between a couple $100 to about a half month's rent. It's usually not the same amount of money as it was to sign the lease in the first place. That's pretty unusual. It could be, but I'm saying typically a release is a little bit less than that. The fourth thing that can cost money is maintenance. And how that works really varies depending on the company. Sometimes they have in-house. Sometimes they have a preferred vendor. Sometimes they have just outside vendors and they get competitive bids. Sometimes they'll charge some money on top, like a flat fee or a percentage of the job to manage the whole thing. Sometimes they won't. So you want to ask questions about that part of things. And then the fifth item is inspections. So typically you're going to get a move-in and move-out inspection included as a part of the management. That's where they take either pictures or videos and just see the status of the property before the people move in and then when they move out. But sometimes you can get a inspection partway through the year, which is usually worth the money. It typically costs between $50 and $100, and it's worth it just to see how the tenants are treating the property, and I would recommend it. Okay, guarantees. You may wonder why I'm bringing this up under pricing, but property management is one of those things, it's a service, and so you really can't know how it's going until you've actually signed in the dotted line and you're committed. So the question is let's say you invested this money, you paid money to get a tenant, or have it managed every month, and it's not working out. Like, what are your options? You've got money invested, and that's definitely a part of pricing, as far as I'm concerned. So one is some companies will have a money-back guarantee. I've seen them 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. Any longer, that would be pretty unusual and pretty good. And so that it doesn't involve the lease-up fee, so the price you pay, the half to a full month's rent to get a tenant, that's usually not included. So it's usually just a monthly management fee. So let's say it was month 3 and you decided, this isn't working for me. A company that had a money-back guarantee might give you those 3 months of management. So let's say it was $100 a month for management, you get 100 times 3 or $300 back. That's one thing. Another is a cancellation guarantee. Happy customer guarantee. There's a lot of different names for it, but the idea is that let's say you get 5 months into your agreement and you're unhappy with how the process is going, you want to get out. Well, a lot of property management companies are going to charge you a cancellation fee, and you can't just stop the agreement. So a cancellation guarantee allows you to just walk, and so you want to ask about that because obviously it makes a pretty big difference, especially if you're unhappy. And the final guarantee that's one to look for in this category is a tenant replacement guarantee. So let's say you get 7 months into an agreement and your tenant's a flake. Everybody did the best they could, but this person stopped paying us. They have to be evicted. So then what happens? Somebody who has a tenant replacement guarantee will get you a new tenant for no charge. I've seen those from 6 to 12 months, somewhere in that range. A tenant guarantee that's under 3 months is not really worth that much because most tenants are still paying at that point. So look for something between 6 and 12 months if they have something like that. The final point I want to make is cheap versus fair pricing. I'm a little biased. I've been involved in real estate now for about 30 years. And While everybody should expect fair pricing, cheap pricing, let's put it this way, what your mom or your grandma told you is true, that you get what you pay for. And so if somebody's really cheap, then they have an incentive to not pay attention to your property after you've signed on the dotted line, because they've got to go out and make some more money. And where somebody who charges a little bit more, maybe they can pay a little more careful attention to your property. That's a pretty expensive asset. And so I would take that in consideration, because when you stop and actually work the numbers, the difference between a 7% fee and an 8% fee, 1%, it might be $10 or $20 a month. And I'm not saying that doesn't make a difference. I'm just saying you have to kind of weigh that along with things like the reputation of the company and how much they'll pay attention to your property, how well they'll take care of your asset. So I just encourage you to think in terms of a fair price instead of just the cheapest.